Hello, I'm Jeff, and welcome to Snap Talk, your podcast supplement. It seems Steam has been hurting with some self-inflicted wounds, from the preventable, if they had some decent quality control, to confusing after removing games that followed their rules, the latter first. Manga Gamer, a publisher of visual novel-style games, was told in the middle of May that one of their games, Kindred Spirits, would be removed due to content that apparently went against guidelines. However, keep in mind that this game was submitted to Valve in an effort to get published in an unaltered form years ago. Like, the four of us were still working at the old site years ago. So hearing this didn't make sense. Now, apparently what happened was a group of feckless fundamentalists, calling themselves the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, took umbrage with Steam over the selling of games that they considered pornographic, even listing them on their list of Dirty Dozen companies. Valve, choosing now to actually take action for some reason, capitulated and removed a number of games that were listed. These included Kindred Spirits and many more visual novels that can be considered risque. Unsurprisingly, games that had legit sex in them, like Mass Effect and the Witcher series, were allowed to stay on with no issue. Also unsurprisingly, when the backlash boiled over, Steam retracted in removing the visual novels, instead opting to re-evaluate the games in question. Now, while I do play games that have visual novel elements in them, like Fire Emblem, I don't necessarily play games like Kindred Spirits or any of the others that were listed on there. But the thing is, I know there's a group out there that likes these games, and not necessarily on a base sexual level either. I mean, for instance, there's some interesting elements to a game like Honey Pop, where, yeah, there is a lot of sexual things going on, but there's also this interesting match 3 game that you play while in between visual novel points. As far as I know, for the most part, nothing that would be considered sexual assault really happens in these games. So, quite frankly, as long as they don't stray too far into that, unless they are going to specifically explore the effects of that, they're fine. Frankly, there are far worse things to make a game. Which brings us to our second issue, active shooter, which is, and let's be incredibly generous, a game revolving around school shootings. In particular, you can play as the school shooter. It was scheduled to be released on the platform before Valve stepped in and removed it, and other games by the publisher on the store, though not for the reasons you may be thinking. The game was removed along with the account of Acid, the publisher of Active Shooter, because it was connected to Ada Berdiev, an outed asset flipper who was eventually removed from Steam due to copyright infringement. However, Berdiev didn't work on the game. He was neither developer or publisher of Active Shooter. Instead, it was his American bank account that was connected to the game due to sanctions making it difficult to cash out on Steam from a Russian account. It's quite possible, and perhaps right to assume, that Steam more than likely would have let this thing release this week had Berdiev not played any part in this saga. Valve has taken a very lax approach to quality control, preferring to have its own users sift through the game library to promote what they liked through the Steam Curators project. But what ultimately happened is that a gray market of video games was created right under Valve's nose. If you want a full description on why these asset flippers keep appearing, check out the link below to an excellent video on the subject by Sid Alpha. But in brief, here's what happens. The asset flippers buy low-cost, if not free assets from an engine like Unity and GameMaker, both of which can be used to make fantastic games like Night in the Woods and Undertale, respectively. They then take these assets and, with minimal work, create a product that goes on Steam after they pay the $100 Steam Direct fee. They then take thousands of Steam keys, basically codes used to download the product, and sell them for pennies on the dollar on the gray market. Once the keys are activated and enough engagement in these products have happened, they are then allowed to create Steam trading cards for their game. Those cards are then farmed for gems. They can then turn around and use to create cards of higher value, which can then be sold for more. In addition, they'll also make a small amount of money on cards from their games that get traded back and forth. As much as I hate his practice, Berdiev is merely a scapegoat in all of this. Ultimately, the fault lays with Valve. This game should never have even been allowed to be on the storefront. And for those thinking that this is censorship, let's break it down to its bare basics. Let's take away the fact that this is a game that allows you to shoot up a school. Let's take away the fact that the victims in this game are female. Let's take away the fact that it's just an incredibly insensitive topic to make a game out of. It's just not a good game at its bare minimum. There was no effort put into this. This was someone throwing assets together and trying to call it a game. It shouldn't be allowed on any store. And the fact that Steam keeps letting it happen is why people are sick of the store and are looking at other places to get their gaming fix, like GOG.com. They may not have all the top-end games, but at least there they have some quality control. Now you may ask, well, what's different between this game and the visual novels? Well, the visual novels actually had some effort put into them. And seeing as they made it onto GOG.com, there's a level of quality to them that isn't there in these asset flips. And most importantly, they actually contacted Valve directly, asking them constantly, is this okay? Is this okay? And Valve kept saying yes, until apparently bad PR came up and they decided to force a removal. That's the issue. That's why people are boycotting Steam right now. Now, while that was originally the end, we're not done. Because while I was editing this video, this came into my feed.
Today I'm left with no choice but to inform you all that Valve Corporation, Valve, responsible for Half-Life, Valve, headed up by Gabe Newell, Valve, they made Portal, Valve fully endorses AIDS Simulator, a game it is selling right now on Steam. And I say Valve fully endorses it as per what it said just this week in a blog post where Valve stated it's fully committed to doing fuck all regarding quality control on Steam.
Wow. I should point out that at the time of publishing this self-professed asset flip, along with other flips by the seller that included but wasn't limited to titles like ISIS Simulator, have been removed. But that doesn't escape the fact that this was the perfect analogy to the whole problem with Steam. This one guy taking the piss out of the largest PC gaming store in the world created the perfect metaphor for Valve. They were the golden boy, grading high in class, being popular with the jocks, and helping those in need. But then it developed bad habits, falling into the wrong crowd, became addicted to card games, fooled around with numerous partners, started whoring itself out for $100 a pop when it needed more money. And by the time one of its clients turned out to be an active shooter, it was all too late. Whether or not they removed it from its store, it is still undeniable. Steam has AIDS. That's it for this episode of Snap Talk. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with others. Also, be sure to ring the notification bell so that you can be notified of future videos. If you have a different opinion to what was stated, feel free to comment down below and we can talk about it. If you have an idea for another Snap Talk, please leave a suggestion below, and if I feel I can get enough material together, I may talk about it in a future episode. I'm Jeff from Some Nerdy Arguments, and I'll talk to you soon.